our top focus on Gravitas. Ukraine, it seems, has not learnt its lessons. It appears to have repeated a strategic mistake. On the 6-month anniversary of its first attack inside Russia's Kursk region, Kyiv launched a new offensive on Thursday. It was a surprise assault involving several waves of attacks, but it was doomed from the start. Russian forces quickly repelled the incursion, maintaining control of their settlements. Dramatic videos showed Russian drones blowing up Ukrainian vehicles to smithereens. In total, Russia claims to have fought back 8 rounds of Ukrainian attacks, reportedly costing Kyiv over 200 soldiers and the loss of various tanks and vehicles. Safe to say, it was a failed mission, making us wonder, has Ukraine learned nothing from previous counter-offensives? It looks like the Ukrainian attack was focused on Russian positions to the southeast of the town of Zudza. The assault involved up to 2 mechanized battalions with dozens of armored vehicles. The main thrust centered around the villages of Ulanok, Cherkaskia and Unokolpeka, which is about 9 kilometers southeast of Zudza. Russian forces acknowledged the advances but claimed that Ukraine failed to seize any settlements. At least 6 tanks, 3 infantry fighting vehicles, 3 assault breaches and 14 other armored vehicles were destroyed. So then, what was Kyiv aiming for with its advance? Sure, while Ukraine's ability to launch major attacks poses a challenge for Russia, it is undeniable that Ukraine's foothold in Kursk has shrunk majorly. Moscow has regained major ground, yet Kyiv continues to push deeper into Russian territory. The question being, what is Ukraine still hoping to gain from Kursk? Well, last time, Ukraine put all of its energy into capturing Russian region. It left its eastern front line completely open to Russian attacks and assaults. As a result, Russian troops were able to dismantle Ukraine's front line. Russian troops made major advances in East Ukraine, seizing nearly 3,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. There was a possibility that the Ukrainian Eastern Front might actually collapse if Russia continued to advance at this pace. It showed just how stretched Ukraine's defensive line has become. Ukraine's forces have been putting up a defense to the best of its ability, but the front line creeps ever closer. And for Ukraine, the losses have so far outweighed their wins. So then, why does Ukraine keep pushing for Kursk? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has openly stated that control of Kursk provides a useful bargaining chip in potential peace talks with Russia. But as the war approaches its 3rd anniversary on 24th of February, Moscow controls roughly a fifth of Ukraine's region. Russia has claimed that since the beginning of the offensive, Ukraine has sustained extremely heavy casualties. And that's up to 58,000 Ukrainian servicemen have been killed or wounded, with over 330 tanks, more than 240 infantry fighting vehicles, and nearly 200 armored personnel carriers destroyed. And after the new counterattack, the Ukrainian military has made no official statement about its invasion into Kursk. But unofficial Ukrainian military blog said that Kyiv's military made some limited gains in tactical positions. Zelensky also acknowledged the 6-month anniversary of the incursion, but he made no mention of a counteroffensive. And speaking in his nightly video address, Zelensky said, and I quote him here, "The Kursk incursion brought the war home for Russians so that they might feel just what war is. And they're feeling it. But are the Russians truly feeling the heat?" Look at this map on your screens now of the war. The yellow portion shows Russian-controlled Ukrainian territory, and the tiny red dot indicates Ukrainian-controlled Russian territory. The writing is on the wall. Why Ukraine's war is in a bad place, but Zelensky has demanded for nuclear weapons from the West. On Tuesday, during an interview with British TV anchor Piers Morgan, Zelensky said that If procedure of Ukraine's NATO accession takes years, Kyiv should be given nuclear weapons. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump's envoy to Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, brushed aside Kyiv's demand, stating that it is not going to happen. Meanwhile, as Ukraine clings to Kursk and pleads for nuclear weapons, Russia continues its offensive. On Friday, Russian forces seized the village of Druzhba in eastern Donetsk. Moscow's forces are advancing rapidly across various areas, using their overwhelming numbers to attack. They are gradually trapping Ukraine forces in a pincer movement, forcing retreats to avoid encirclement. And so the question remains, what is the point of Ukraine's Kursk offensive? Why does Ukraine continue to repeat strategic mistakes? Cripple Russia's economy, isolate Moscow, starve its war machine. That was the West's plan when it unleashed an unprecedented war of sanctions after the Ukraine invasion. But is that working? The latest numbers tell a different tale, however. Russia reported strong economic growth for 2024.
Rosstat has just presented their first estimate, according to which the Russian gross domestic product grew by 4.1%. That is 0.2% higher than what was in the official forecast.
US, European Union, UK, Japan, Canada and Australia have imposed over 19,500 restrictions on Russia. And today, it is the world's most sanctioned nation. The sanctions targeted every sector, freezing billions in assets and blocking important exports. While the West had hoped sanctions would collapse Russia's economy and thwart Moscow's ability to fund its military offensive in Ukraine. But Russia's economy is now more than 6% larger than it was before the offensive. Moscow's war-driven spending spree on weapons and personnel has injected massive capital into the economy, fueling a military-industrial boom. Defense is operating at full tilt as well, churning out ammunition, tanks and drones at record speed. While inflation and labor shortages are mounting concerns, the Kremlin has kept the economy afloat with aggressive state intervention.
The task for the current year is to reach a balanced growth trajectory, to achieve a reduction in inflation. You also mentioned this now. We had 9.5% for last year, and I think as of February 3rd it was already 9.9% per year. And this is a challenge for us. We must do everything necessary to ensure that our growth is balanced.
Rising oil revenues, despite Western price caps, continue to fund government spending. Meanwhile, Russia has pivoted to Asia, expanding trade with China, India and West Asia to bypass the Western sanctions.